So would you rather have money in your pocket or sitting in your walls? Today we're going to go over equity and cash flow and the differences you have when it comes to renting or listing a property. Let's talk a little bit about equity. I know that's more my realm, but how do you envision equity, Glynn?
Well, the whole process, I look at, there's 4 pillars that you got to look at when you're deciding what you want to do,
right,
whether you want to buy or sell. And the first pillar would be cash flow. The second, you're looking at depreciation.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're looking at appreciation. And then you're looking at amortization. So you're initially, everybody immediately, they only think cash flow.
Right.
Am I making money? Can I pay all my mortgage, my taxes, my HOA fees? If they can't pay them all off, then they're thinking, well, rental's not good for me. But once you factor in all your depreciation, your tax benefits, the appreciation of the house is always
equity,
getting better. As you're paying off the house, or as each month, the tenant's basically paying your mortgage payment for
right,
you, and you're getting the benefits of the equity build up there. So you really got to look at the big picture of things and not just look at cash flow. So
right.
we both have programs. Our program's called Wealth Optimizer, and we can definitely put a link on the podcast where you can go and you can play around with that. But give us a call, both of us. We can both help walk you through the situation and figure out which one's better for you.
Yeah, because I would say when people are looking at necessarily just releasing their equity, a lot of times they think they have to list it. But there are opportunities where you can maybe do a cash out and still potentially rent it out. Equity is the amount of the house that you don't have a mortgage on. That's the difference. So the longer you own a property or the more money you put down, the more equity you may have.
Correct.
And we see a lot of times if someone's maybe downsizing or empty nesters, or maybe they inherited a property, a lot of times it has a lot of equity and they're trying to decide what to do with that. Those are really fun situations because there's more options.
There's more options. You can use that money to buy something else,
yes,
or you can
without having necessarily get rid of the property.
Right.
They could
you
do
still
both.
Keep the property.
Yes.
With us on those situations, we always talk to whether the house is near payoff or it's already been paid off.
Mm-hmm.
We can do a rental. We can rent that out, and that could be paying their rent or paying their mortgage for their next house.
Yes.
So there's all kinds of opportunities for that.
And then when we look at equity from the sales side of it, if there isn't enough equity, which we're running into in this current market, that somebody purchased a home post-COVID and they've only owned it about 2 years, which means when they purchased, they probably bought at the height of the market.
Right.
And maybe rates weren't as high as they are now, but when they go to turn around and realize they want to sell, they actually have to bring cash to the table to close because they don't have the equity.
Right.
We've had a lot of conversations recently about it may make sense, instead of trying to sell it and bring money to the table, why don't you lease it out and give yourself some more time to build more equity in the meantime, which also brings in those tax benefits that you get from write-offs, and all the other pillars that you just mentioned earlier. They just don't, otherwise they feel like they're kind of stuck and they have to sell it and bring cash to the table, because they don't want the headache of leasing it out. Which it doesn't have to be a headache.
That's why you hire us.
Yes, you don't need that.
But you also have you got to look at the market. What's happening with the market right now? Because like right now, we're having lots of people they have their houses on the market to sell, and they're thinking, well, I'm not getting. In some areas, they're not getting the offers that they think, or the showings that they think, and they're saying, okay, well, I think I want to take them off the market, and then list the property and try to rent it out for a couple of years and wait for the economy to turn. But on your side, though, if you get a good house, you got to take care of the house, you got to fix it up.
Yes.
If you don't pay those expenses, don't be cheap with that. You gotta do that because somebody walking in the house, it's first impression.
Yep.
They're gonna they're going to make their decision within 15 seconds when they walk in the house. And same thing with rentals. We have some people on a rental, they walk out, they just see how the yard's taken care of. They don't want to even go in the door.
Right.
They've already decided, I don't like this house.
Yep. When life hits hard, late payments, medical bills, job loss, or even the need to move quickly, many homeowners feel trapped. The fastest way out seems to be selling to a cash investor, but that means giving your home away for pennies on the dollar. You don't have to do that. Nearly half of homeowners today are equity rich, and that value belongs to you. With our One Move program, you can unlock that equity immediately, get cash in hand now, and still share in the upside when your home resells. Or, if you'd rather, we'll shop your property to multiple cash buyers so you can choose the best offer instead of settling for one low bid. Go to DunnDealOffers.com and discover the smarter way to get cash fast without losing the equity you've worked so hard to build.
To those who take the risk, who bet their life savings, their blood, sweat, and tears on a rental property to make a nice place for someone to live and a nice living for themselves. To those who get this call or no call at all. To those who keep adding more properties, it will all be worth it for you and for them. You care about preserving your investments. So do we. Real Property Management.
Cash flow, the cash flow, when you're looking at cash flow, that's going to be what's left over after you pay whatever
Correct.
expenses you have.
Correct.
So paying your mortgage, HOA dues, if you are going to use a property,
Insurance.
property
Right.
management, insurance, all that. So then what's left over? And sometimes the neighborhood or area may not support high enough of a price to cash flow. So then you have the conversation of, okay, it might be a slight loss for now. And I actually just had this conversation with a potential seller where they'd bought the house very recently. They're getting a job relocation, and it doesn't make sense for them to sell because they would have to eat a really big paycheck in one day versus maybe over 12 months, they're going to lose a couple hundred a month. And with their new job, they're getting a pay increase. And so that kind of offsets the loss. And if for some reason it doesn't work out, they always have a home to come back to if they need to. And so instead of feeling like, well, we're leaving the area, we have to sell it, even though we just bought it, we're going to lose all of our down payment we just put into it and then some, it made sense to go, okay, if we stretch this out over 12 months for a lease agreement and you didn't hit the number in cash flow you needed, it's still a gradual hit of funds versus all in one day. And that's a little bit easier to handle for some people than selling and just taking a huge loss and losing the asset that you really love. Like they bought the house and loved it. They weren't anticipating to have the opportunity come up. And so it was a really great conversation to be able to explain that to them. But there's so many different situations where you have to pick which one's more important. And a lot of times we see the accidental investors who inherit a property or have this situation like I just mentioned come up, and they have to outweigh what makes sense, cash flow or equity. And the great part is if you don't have all the equity, you can hold on to it a little longer and get that equity. But most people, I remember the first time I was showing houses as a newer agent and I was with my client was the kid and his parents were there. And we were looking at really nice homes. We were walking through the homes. And at one point, the parents turned to me and said, if they had to sell this next year, would they make their money back? And as a new agent, I couldn't answer the question because I didn't quite understand how to answer that question. And now that I've been established a little bit longer, almost no instance are you going to make your money back the next year. You need multiple years with real estate. You have to hold on to it. And to buy a house anticipating you might have to sell it next year, it's probably not a good fit for you to buy the house. You should probably just pump the brakes. And they didn't. They didn't buy the house because they didn't know what they were going to do in the next couple of years. But I think if you do get in that situation where you might have to sell sooner than later and you don't have the equity, renting it out is a way better option for your pocketbook.
Right.
Because there are so many other pillars you can tap into that people don't realize exist. When it comes to like I know we're not CPAs, but like taxes, it's more like they're writing off depreciation, right? Is essentially what they're looking at. So that's a good question for a CPA to talk about. What does that look like? What other things can they financially benefit from leasing?
Yeah, you're looking at cash flow. You're getting all your expenses paid. The one thing you really need to look at is your tenants paying your mortgage. So if they're not paying all of the mortgage, I kind of look at it like a 401k investment, where you're putting money in. You got your company matching
Yes.
funds.
Yep.
That would be your tenant, where they're paying a lot of it down. And for all new homeowners, the way they build your schedule, I guess.
Yeah.
Your mortgage payment down when you're first paying off your first payments, most of it's interest. So
Right.
that's why your equity doesn't build until 5, 10, 15 years down the road. So you're writing off all those taxes. You're writing off any kind of HOA fees. Any maintenance upkeep, you can write that off. Those are all the things you got to look at. And like you said, we're not CPAs, but you definitely want to have a CPA involved,
Yes.
so that they can tell you things that you don't even think about.
Right. So even though you might feel like it's a loss because you're not getting the cash flow, because you might be in a tough situation, you may actually be winning later on down the road.
Yeah, because your house is appreciating. You don't realize how much more you're building your equity. The house is appreciating. Keep saying that.
Because that's one of the biggest things. Because appreciation takes time to build that equity, and so if you cut the time too short, you're going to miss out on all that.
Right.
And a lot of times when we work with sellers who want to list, they go, "Well, I paid this much for it, and I want to sell this much for it," and they don't always recalculate how much they put down into the property. So a lot of times they're like, "Well, I'm breaking
Renovations,
even."
stuff like that.
I'm breaking even. You're not breaking even. You're actually losing money because you put a down payment plus any other updates or renovations you've done. So it makes sense to hold on to it and let it build, because we know historically there's a 4% trend yield line of appreciation. And so if you let it go long enough, it's going to catch up with that.
Right.
And a lot of people just sell themselves too short right off the bat. And then they also sell straight to like a cash investor who gets the upside profits later. And that's something that we've been trying to work with our clients to say, let us work with you if you do have to sell it. We can sell it to a cash investor, but then we can also relist it for you and get you the upside profits. And that's been a really great program for houses that are pretty turnkey and don't need a lot of updates. If they need a lot of updates, you probably have to go the investor route, because they're willing to take it on at a cost, but they're going to take it and relieve you of it. And then you can take that money on and do whatever you want to do with it.
Another big thing when you're buying houses or leasing houses, you gotta look at, is it new construction versus an older house.
Right.
So when you're planning on, do I want to buy or rent my house, or when you're buying a house for an investment or living in it, the older houses, they typically have more maintenance. You want to definitely be checking the piping, the electrical, make sure you're up to codes. With new construction, you're getting a brand new house, and
you still want to inspect it.
So you still want to inspect it, because they still don't do everything.
They don't do what they're supposed to do.
Especially when on the new properties, we are finding where most of them don't meet the code for rentals.
Yep.
There's a different builder and a different rental code, and we get a lot of confused owners with the new property that, this should be up to code. And it's not. And I physically got to give them a copy of the code to make sure that, okay, he's not lying. But there's a few things that they don't take care of that. So when you're going through this process, bring in the professionals so that they can help you out.
And then just knowing your goals. If you're looking for long term and some legacy building, you definitely
Right.
want to have equity built in and give yourself more options. But it's kind of a cycle. Like it eventually can come back into renting and leasing and turning into an income property. So a lot of times people want cash flow because they can use that cash to do other things.
Right.
If you get enough properties cash flowing, it can supplement your current income and you can retire, right? There's so many
Right.
things you can do with it if you know the strategy you want to build. And that's by having the conversation first. So I think that kind of wraps us up for today.
It does.
Just figure out what path you want. And if you don't know the path that you want to go down, have the conversation and we can help you get there.